Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging with me on this Sunday. And if you've taken some time out of your busy schedules to support my channel by hitting that like or subscribe button, thank you for doing that. All right, so you will hear in most fall fishing videos an introduction that involves tough fishing. This time of year, the bass get really caught up in swimming all over the lake, and the bait moves them all around, and they're hard to pattern, they're hard to catch consistently day after day. But I don't think you knowing that the fishing is going to be tough really helps you. I want to give you some exact scenarios that I've either done something significant and it made my day, I became fortunate and caught bass, or I did something incorrect and it involved me not catching bass when I really had the right clues. So after a decade of big time tournament fishing in the fall, the 2-day BFLs, the Toyota Series Championships, the BFL Regionals, those big tournaments have taught me a lot about, look, you're not going to get a whole lot of info and you've got to act on every little piece that you're going to get. So I'm going to give you a few scenarios that I've run into that I either made the right decision or the wrong one, but I think you can learn from either. So the first one being, most lakes in the fall have some kind of stereotypical pattern that it won't be hard for you to do some digging and find out. You know, I can name like 10 lakes off the top of my head that you go here, you should at least spend a day trying to do this. Like Kentucky Lake, topwater walking bait. Gunnersville, frogging, flipping, matted vegetation. You know, schooling bass on Smith Lake, you know, wolf packs or something like that. You could go to Florida and, you know, the fish are like in a pre-spawn mode, so a flipping bite is generally going to be something that could go down. But there's like pretty basic, pretty broad ideas of something you should try. Now, this is not going to be working all over the lake. So if you put in down by the dam and fish around for a day and it's not working, you got to really venture out and try the whole lake when it comes to these certain techniques, because 90% of the lake in the fall is dead. Just the reality of it. And just because a spot is dead today doesn't mean it won't be dead tomorrow. It could turn on, but in the present time, 90% of the lake is not going to be fishing very well. You know, you're really going to have to lock something in your hand and seek out a bite, and it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to fish the entire lake. Now, you could stay in one general area and figure something out, but for the most part, there's just a lot of dead water. You know, I'm not saying the only place the bite's going to be happening is up the river, the only place it's going to happen is mid-lake or down by the dam, but 90% of wherever you're at is just not going to be fishable that present hour or that time that you're there. Just how the fall works. Now, why it's very important is you can cut out a lot of those other things. You don't have to worry about what bait you're using. You have the bait because that's the deal. That's the technique and the pattern and all that. You have that already taken care of. Now you just need to figure out where it's at the lake. But again, 10% of the lake that may be going down on. So you're really gonna have to pay close attention to that. Now, another scenario that I've run into in the fall is tough is really an understatement for how bad lakes fish this time of year. You may fish like 3 days, sun up to sundown, without catching a quality size bass. So your clue that you get, that's gonna direct you where to go for the rest of the week or your tournament or whatever you're doing on that body of water, maybe like a blow up on a frog or a blow up on a buzzbait. And then you build from that. And I'm not saying that you just found the magic spot, but maybe you start finding other things that look like that. So tomorrow when you get out of bed and get on the water real early, you start back on that place from yesterday where you just had a big blow up, and then you can take that piece of the puzzle. So it's like you're getting the corner pieces of the puzzle. Those are the easy ones. You plug them in and build on that, but it's not gonna be like, well, we pulled into this area and caught 5 3-pounders. We got it figured out. You're gonna get like the smallest little clue, and if you don't pick up on that tiny, tiny little piece of information, you may miss it. You're gonna, nah, that wasn't anything important, and go somewhere else. That was the deal. It just wasn't this obvious clue. It was a fingerprint, you know? So that's another thing that I've run into quite a bit this time of year. Now, the last thing would kind of be like a hybrid of those two situations where you found something, you didn't necessarily think it was that powerful, and you go and try to do too much. That's another thing you will run into a lot this time of year, because you want it to be like spring. You want it to be like summer, where you can just go 5 miles that way and find a spot, you know, in a couple hours, go 5 miles that way and find a couple more spots in, you know, in an hour. But what typically happens is when you find something and you're getting some bites on it, it's not going to be exactly like that tomorrow. It may be way better tomorrow, or it may not be as good, but it's good enough. And when you try to overextend yourself this time of year, like, I'm here, I'm getting bites, we've caught multiple fish here, but I still think I need to run 10 miles up the river and go find this flipping, punching bite because I know everyone talks about that on this lake. That's a whole different days and days spent that you're going to have to find something up there. You found enough. You need to keep it simple and not go try to do a million things. What you found here for the fall, taking this time of year with a grain of salt because it is so tough, you found enough. And I think that's a mistake that I've continuously make to this day, where it's the Chattahoochee River. There's always a punch and bite up the river. We've got to go up the river and do that. I know I can catch some fish right here, but I want to go catch some 5-pounders up there because all I've seen here is 2.5 and 3-pounders. And then you go back to this spot the next day and you catch a couple 3-pounders. Or you go and try to go up the river and it doesn't pan out, and then you come back the last 2 hours of the day and you're just catching them every cast. And you're thinking, man, if I would have spent 8 to 10 hours on this spot down here that I thought was just a B-level mid-type spot, it's really an A spot. I just didn't pick up on those little clues. So that is very important this time of year. Figure out the deal, do some research before you get to the lake, and spend a lot of time doing that. Now, that's not always going to work, but typically that will be going on somewhere. You may never find it, which is fine, but don't be oblivious to the tiniest little clues, because that's about all you may get sometimes. You know, you may spend a week on a lake and you figured it out the first day, but you never picked up on it because it was such a minute detail. Now, the last one would be don't fold them too quick. If you've got a hand that doesn't look great, you got to just realize that all the other hands at the table are really bad as well. So maybe your hand that you think is, you know, that pair of 5s is the winning hand. You just got to play it. So try that, guys. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.